Hana wiped the sweat from her forehead and stared at the broken metal panels scattered around her feet. The salvage work never got easier. Even after 3 years of doing it, she grabbed another piece of scrap and tossed it into the cargo container. Behind her, the massive hull of the derelict ship stretched into the darkness of space like a dead giant. "Hana, you finding anything good down there?" Tay's voice crackled through her helmet speaker. Her older brother always worried too much. "Just the usual junk," she replied, kicking at a piece of twisted metal. "Nothing worth the fuel we spent getting here." She moved deeper into the wreckage, her scanner beeping softly as it searched for anything valuable. The ship had been floating here for decades, maybe longer. Most salvagers had already picked it clean, but Quan, their captain, insisted they check one more time. He had a gift for finding treasure where others saw only trash. Minji's cheerful voice cut through the comm channel. "Hey Hana, want to grab some food when we get back? I heard the station got a new shipment from the core worlds." Hana smiled inside her helmet. Minji was her best friend and the only person who could make salvage work seem less boring. Sure, if we ever finish this job. She had almost given up on finding anything when her scanner suddenly went crazy. The beeping became a loud, steady tone. Hana looked at the display screen. There was something nearby. Something with a power signature that shouldn't exist in a dead ship. "Quan, I'm getting a weird reading here," she said into the comm. "What kind of reading?" The captain's gruff voice sounded interested now. "I don't know. It's not like anything I've seen before. The energy signature is strange." There was silence for a moment. Then Quan spoke again. "Mark the location. We're coming to you." 10 minutes later, the whole crew stood in the damaged cargo bay where Hana had found the signal. Tay ran his own scanner over the area while Minji examined the walls. Quan just stood there, his old eyes narrowed in thought. "It's coming from below us," Tay said finally. "Through the hull. There's something on the other side." "On the other side?" Hana looked down at her feet. "But there's nothing below this ship except empty space and—" She stopped talking. They were near the restricted zone, the area around the old Sol system where nobody was allowed to go. Dead World 3 Terra was somewhere nearby, the planet that had been poisoned and dead for over 100,000 years. Quan made a decision. "We're going to take a look." "Captain, that's the restricted zone," Tay protested. "If we get caught, we won't get caught if we're quick," Quan interrupted. "That energy signature could be worth more than we'd make in 10 years. We're going." 2 hours later, their small ship descended through the ash-filled atmosphere of Dead World 3 Terra. Hana watched through the window as gray clouds rushed past. She had dreamed about this place before, though she didn't know why. In her dreams, it was beautiful, blue and green and full of life. But the reality was a nightmare of radiation and death. "Landing in 30 seconds, Minji announced from the pilot seat. They touched down on a flat plain covered in volcanic ash. The world outside was gray and lifeless. No plants, no animals, no sign that anything had ever lived here. Hana felt a strange sadness looking at it. "Suits on, everyone," Quan ordered. "The radiation levels are high." They put on their protective suits and stepped outside. The wind howled across the empty landscape, pushing ash into small dunes. Hana's scanner led them east toward a series of low hills. After walking for 20 minutes, they found it. Rising from the ash like a frozen wave was a massive structure made of crystal. It was easily as large as their ship, maybe larger. The surface was covered in symbols and patterns that seemed to flow like water, even though they were carved into solid stone. "By the stars," Minji whispered. Hana moved closer, unable to help herself. The symbols were beautiful and strange. They looked almost like writing, but not like any language she had ever seen. Her translation device couldn't make sense of them at all. "Be careful," Tay called out. "We don't know what this thing is," but Hana barely heard him. She felt drawn to the structure, as if something inside was calling her name. She reached out with one gloved hand and touched the crystal surface. The world exploded into light. The symbols began to glow with a blue-white brilliance that hurt to look at. The ground beneath their feet vibrated. A deep humming sound filled the air, growing louder and louder until Hana thought her skull would crack open. "Hana, get back," Tay shouted, running toward her, but she couldn't move. Her hand was stuck to the crystal surface. Energy flowed up her arm, through her chest, into her head. It didn't hurt, but it felt wrong, like something foreign pushing into her mind. A holographic display suddenly appeared in the air above the structure. The symbols from the crystal floated in 3 dimensions, spinning and rearranging themselves. Then words appeared, written in letters Hana didn't recognize but somehow could understand. Genetic scan complete, the display read. Match found. A mechanical voice spoke, echoing across the dead plain. It was cold and emotionless but clear. Genetic signature recognized. Identification confirmed. Welcome home, child of Terra. Hana finally managed to pull her hand away. She stumbled backward into Tay's arms. The display remained floating in the air and the symbols continued to glow. What does it mean? Minji asked, her voice shaking. What's a child of Terra? Quan was already moving, backing toward their ship. I don't know, but we need to leave now. That activation just sent a signal into space. Every patrol ship in the sector is going to come here to investigate. But the structure, Hana started to say. We'll take what we can, Quan interrupted. He grabbed a small crystal data device that had emerged from a panel in the structure. This will have to be enough. Move! They ran back to their ship, the glowing structure behind them lighting up the gray sky like a beacon. As Minji fired up the engines, Hana looked back one last time. The symbols were still glowing, still calling to her in a language she didn't know but somehow understood. Child of Terra, she whispered to herself. The ship lifted off just as bright lights appeared on the horizon. Patrol ships coming fast. Minji pushed the engines to their limit, breaking through the atmosphere and jumping into faster-than-light travel just seconds before the warships arrived. In the cargo hold, the small crystal device sat innocently on a shelf. It pulsed with a soft blue light, storing secrets that had been buried for 100,000 years. Secrets about a species called humans, secrets about Hana herself, and somewhere in orbit around Dead World 3 Terra, automated systems awakened for the first time in countless centuries, responding to a genetic signature they had been programmed to recognize and protect. The crystal device sat on the workbench in their small quarters at Outpost Kepler 9. Hana couldn't stop staring at it. 3 days had passed since they escaped from Dead World 3 Terra, and she still felt the ghost of that energy flowing through her arm. Stop obsessing over it, Tay said from across the room. He was eating his dinner, but his eyes kept drifting to the device too. It's probably just some old alien artifact. Nothing special. It recognized my DNA, Hana replied quietly. It called me a child of Terra. That has to mean something. Minji walked in carrying a data pad, her face excited. I think I got part of it decrypted. The crystal has layers of security, but I managed to crack the first few. You're not going to believe what's inside. She set the pad down on the table and activated it. Images appeared in the air above it, holographic records of cities, people, and technology. But the people looked wrong. They didn't look like any species Hana knew. They looked like her. What are they? Tay asked, leaning closer. The database calls them humans, Minji said, scrolling through more images. It says they lived on Terra over 100,000 years ago. They built ships, explored space, created art and music. But according to every galactic record we have, no intelligent species ever evolved on Terra. The planet has been dead forever. Hana felt her heart beating faster. The people in the images had her face structure, her body type. They looked like her because they were like her. That's impossible. The Galactic Unity Council would know if a whole species existed. Maybe they did know, Quan said from the doorway. They hadn't heard him enter. Maybe someone wanted this forgotten. He sat down heavily, his old bones creaking. I'm sending a report to the council. If there's truth to this, they'll want to investigate. Could be the biggest archaeological discovery in galactic history. They might even give us a research grant. Tay looked doubtful. Or they might arrest us for entering the restricted zone illegally. It's a risk, Quan admitted. But I'm not going to sit on something this important. We leave for Archon Prime tomorrow. That night, Hana couldn't sleep. She lay in her bunk staring at the ceiling while images from the crystal played through her mind. She had seen these places before. The tall buildings, the green forests, the blue oceans, they were from her dreams. Dreams she'd had since childhood. She'd always thought they were just imagination. Random images her brain created while she slept. But now she knew they were memories. Genetic memories somehow passed down through generations. She was connected to these people, these humans, in a way she didn't fully understand. A week later, they stood before the Galactic Unity Council on Archon Prime. The chamber was enormous, with seats rising in circles around a central platform. Representatives from 47 different species filled those seats, their various forms and colors creating a rainbow of alien life. Quan presented their findings. He showed the images from the crystal, explained what happened at the structure on Terra, and requested permission to study the site further. The response was immediate and brutal. Laughter filled the chamber. Not polite chuckling, but harsh mocking laughter that echoed off the walls. Vorn, the head arbiter from the Thaxian Empire, stood up. He was tall and covered in scales that gleamed under the lights. His voice boomed across the room. Humanity? You speak of myths and legends. Dead World 3 Terra has been studied by the best scientists in the galaxy for millennia. No civilization ever arose there. Your evidence is either forged or misinterpreted. But the genetic match, Hana tried to say. Means nothing, Vorn interrupted, his eyes cold. Any species could trigger old technology if it's damaged enough. You found a broken alien relic and jumped to wild conclusions. The Council rejects your request and fines you for illegal entry into the restricted zone. Consider yourselves lucky we don't imprison you for wasting our time. More laughter. Some representatives didn't laugh, Hana noticed. A few looked uncomfortable. One or two exchanged nervous glances when they thought nobody was watching. As the Council dismissed them, a figure in a dark cloak approached. The being moved with grace, its face hidden in shadows. Come with me, it whispered. Quickly. They followed the figure through a maze of corridors until they reached a small private room. Once inside, the figure pulled back its hood. The face beneath was angular and covered with fine silver fur. Its eyes were large and knowing. My name is Ray, the being said. I am an archivist. My species dedicates itself to preserving truth, even truths that others want buried. What do you want? Quan asked suspiciously. To warn you, some truths are buried for a reason. If you value your lives, forget what you found. Go back to your salvage work and never speak of humans again. Why? Hana demanded. If we're wrong, why does it matter? And if we're right, why hide it? Ray looked at her for a long moment. Because if you're right, it means the Galactic Unity Council has been lying for 100,000 years. It means they erased an entire species from history, and people with that much to hide will do anything to keep their secrets. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared through the building. Ray's eyes widened. They're coming for you now, run. They raced through the corridors, Ray leading the way. Behind them, Hana heard shouting and the heavy footsteps of armed guards. They burst into their temporary quarters, just as three armed figures in black armor kicked down the door from the other side. Time seemed to slow down. Hana saw one of the attackers raise a weapon toward Quan. She moved without thinking. Her body reacted faster than her mind could process. She grabbed a metal tool from the table and threw it with perfect accuracy, hitting the attacker's hand. The weapon clattered to the floor. The second attacker came at her. She ducked under his swing, her reflexes impossibly quick. Her legs swept out, catching him behind the knees. He fell hard. The third attacker hesitated, surprised by how easily his companions had been defeated. That hesitation cost him. Tay tackled him from the side and Minji grabbed the dropped weapon. How did you do that? Tay asked Hana, breathing hard. I've never seen you move like that. Hana stared at her hands. They were shaking. I don't know. I just knew what to do. Ray was already at the window, opening it. No time to discuss this. We need to leave the planet. I have a ship waiting. If you want answers, if you want to know the truth about what you are, come with me. Quan looked at his crew. Tay was scared but determined. Minji nodded firmly. Hana met his eyes and saw her own decision reflected there. We go, Quan said. They climbed out the window and down to the street below. Behind them, more guards poured into the building. Sirens wailed across the city. Above them, on every public screen, their faces appeared with a message: wanted, dangerous criminals, spreading false information and disturbing galactic peace. They ran through the streets of Archon Prime, now fugitives chasing answers to questions they didn't fully understand. And somewhere in the darkness of space, ancient systems continued to wake up, responding to a genetic signature that should have been extinct for 100,000 years. Ray's ship was small and fast, designed for speed rather than comfort. They sat cramped in the cargo hold while the archivist piloted them away from Archon Prime. Patrol ships chased them, but Ray was a skilled pilot. She weaved through asteroid fields and jumped to faster-than-light speed before the pursuers could catch up. Where are we going? Quan asked once they were safe. Valtor 7, Ray replied. An ice moon on the edge of explored space. My people maintain a secret archive there. Information that the Galactic Unity Council wants destroyed. Hana sat in the corner, still staring at her hands. The fight in their quarters played over and over in her mind. She had moved with speed and precision she didn't know she possessed. It was as if her body knew things her conscious mind didn't. "What's happening to me?" she asked quietly. Ray glanced back at her. "You're waking up. The human genetic code carries traits that other species don't have. Adaptability, enhanced reflexes, the ability to interface with certain types of technology. These traits stay dormant unless triggered. Triggered by what? Contact with human artifacts. Acceptance of what you are. Your body is remembering what your ancestors could do." Tay shook his head. "This is insane. Hana's just a salvager. We're all just salvagers. We're not some special lost species, aren't you?" Ray turned the ship toward a massive ice-covered moon. "Have you never wondered why Hana heals faster than others? Why she has dreams of places she's never been? Why you, Tay, can understand complex machinery with barely any training? These aren't normal abilities." The ship descended through Valtor 7's thin atmosphere. Below them, ice stretched in all directions, broken only by a single structure, a dome made of dark metal, half buried in the frozen surface. They landed near the dome and put on thick coats to protect against the cold. The ice crunched under their boots as they walked to the entrance. Ray placed her hand on a scanner and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the archive was warm and filled with shelves. But instead of books, the shelves held data crystals, holographic storage devices, and ancient computer systems. Dim lights cast long shadows across the room. "Welcome to the repository of forgotten truths," Ray said. "Everything here is knowledge the Council tried to erase." She led them to a viewing station in the center of the room and activated it. Images filled the air around them. The history of humanity unfolded in light and sound. They watched as humans built their first cities, reached for the stars, and made contact with other species. The humans in these records were peaceful explorers. They shared technology freely and formed alliances based on mutual respect. Then the images grew darker. 100,000 years ago, Ray narrated, humanity was approaching what other species called the Great Threshold. They were about to become a truly advanced civilization. But they had something others feared. The display showed human scientists working with strange devices. As Hana watched, one of them touched a glowing panel. It responded instantly, reshaping itself according to the scientists' thoughts. Humans could interface with precursor technology, Ray continued. Ancient machines left behind by civilizations even older than the current galactic powers. Technology that only responded to human DNA. Why would that be threatening? Minji asked. Because precursor technology is the foundation of modern galactic civilization, faster than light travel, energy shields, medical devices, all based on precursor designs we've barely learned to copy. But humans didn't need to copy. They could use it directly, control it, improve it. The images showed a meeting of alien species. Hana recognized some of them, early versions of the current council members. They argued and gestured. Fear was clear on their faces. They decided humans were too dangerous, Ray said softly. A coalition of 12 species secretly developed a biological weapon. A virus that would make humans sterile. They released it on Terra and every human colony. Hana felt sick watching what came next. Cities falling silent, hospitals filled with dying people, ships trying to escape only to be destroyed by waiting warships, children crying for parents who couldn't help them. 99.9% of humanity died in 3 years, Ray said. The survivors were hunted across the galaxy. Every record of human civilization was systematically destroyed or altered. Terra was bombarded with radiation to ensure nothing would survive. The Council rewrote history to say that Terra never developed intelligent life. But some survived, Quan said, understanding dawning in his eyes. Ray nodded. A few groups managed to hide in deep space. They built secret vaults and entered cryogenic sleep, hoping to outlast their enemies. Most of these vaults failed over the millennia. Power systems broke down, life support failed. But a few lasted. She turned to Hana. 200 years ago, the last functioning vault failed. It was located on the edge of the galaxy, far from any major civilization. The cryogenic pods opened decades too early. Inside were human infants whose parents had entered sleep hoping their children would wake to a better future. Hana's breath caught in her throat. What happened to them? Passing ships found the vault. They took the children and distributed them across the galaxy. Some went to orphanages, some were adopted by alien families. All of them were given false identities. They grew up never knowing what they were. I was one of them, Hana whispered. Yes. And so were several thousand others scattered throughout known space, living normal lives, unaware of their heritage, their abilities dormant until something triggers them. Tay stood up abruptly. This is too much. You're saying my sister is part of some extinct species that was murdered by the Council? That she has abilities that make her dangerous? I'm saying she's human, Ray corrected. And humanity was never dangerous. They were eliminated because of what they represented, a threat to power structures built on controlling precursor technology. The archive suddenly shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Alarms began to wail. Ray ran to a console and pulled up external cameras. Overhead warships were entering orbit. Dozens of them. Vorn's face appeared on every screen in the archive. His scales gleamed as he smiled coldly. You should have listened, Salvager. The galaxy is better off without your kind. We will not allow humanity to rise again. We made that mistake once. Energy beams began striking the dome. The metal walls groaned under the assault. Is there another way out? Quan shouted over the noise. Ray was already moving. Follow me, quickly. They ran deeper into the archive, past shelves of ancient knowledge. Hana grabbed the data crystal from her pocket, the one they'd taken from Terra. She couldn't let it be destroyed. Ray led them to a hangar at the back of the dome. Inside sat a sleek ship unlike anything Hana had ever seen. Its lines were smooth and elegant, more organic than mechanical. What is that? Minji breathed. A human ship, Ray said, from the Golden Age. One of the few that survived. She looked at Hana. Only someone with human DNA can activate it. Touch the hull. Hana hesitated for only a moment, then pressed her palm against the ship's surface. It felt warm, almost alive. Symbols appeared under her hand, the same writing from the vault on Terra. The ship came to life. Lights flickered on inside. The boarding ramp lowered with a soft hiss. An engine hum filled the hangar, a sound that seemed to resonate in Hana's chest. Welcome aboard, Captain, a voice said from inside the ship. It sounded almost human. They scrambled aboard as the dome began to collapse around them. Ray took the controls, but the ship seemed to anticipate her commands. It rose smoothly, its engines firing with incredible power. The ceiling exploded above them. Ray pushed the ship through the gap, dodging falling debris. They shot out into space just as the entire archive collapsed in on itself, crushed by orbital bombardment. I'm sorry, Hana said to Ray. Your archive? Knowledge exists to be used, not hoarded, Ray replied. And we saved the most important thing. She looked at Hana. You're the key to everything. With you we can find other humans. Wake them up, give humanity a second chance. Behind them, Valter 7 burned. Ahead, the stars waited, filled with answers, dangers, and the scattered remnants of a species the galaxy tried to forget. They named the ship Legacy. It flew through space faster than anything Hana had ever experienced, responding to commands almost before they were spoken. The ship felt alive in a way modern vessels didn't, as if it had a personality waiting to be rediscovered. I've never seen technology like this, Tay said from the engineering bay. He was surrounded by holographic displays showing systems he barely understood. The power source alone could revolutionize galactic civilization. And the weapons? He paused, looking uncomfortable. These weapons could destroy an entire fleet. But we won't use them for that, Hana said firmly. She sat in the captain's chair, feeling its contours adjust to fit her body. We're not warriors. We're just trying to survive. Ray brought up a star chart. Before the archive was destroyed, I downloaded a list of possible human descendants. People like you scattered across the galaxy. If we can find them and tell them the truth, we might have a chance. A chance at what? Quan asked. We're fugitives. The Council wants us dead. What can a handful of salvagers and lost descendants do against the entire galaxy? We can survive, Hana said quietly. That's what humans do. We survive. Their first stop was a crime-controlled world called Vexar Prime. According to Ray's data, a human descendant worked there as a gladiator in the fighting pits. His name was Day. They found him in a crowded arena, fighting a creature twice his size. The crowd roared as Day dodged a crushing blow and countered with impossible speed. He moved like water, fluid and precise. His opponent fell and Day stood victorious. After the fight, they met him in his quarters beneath the arena. Day was tall and muscular, his body covered in scars. He looked at them with suspicious eyes. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice rough. "To tell you the truth about what you are," Hana said. She showed him the data crystal, played the records from the archive. Day watched in silence, his expression unreadable. When the images ended, he sat down heavily. "I always knew I was different," he said finally. "I heal faster than anyone else. I've taken injuries that should have killed me. People call me a freak." He looked up at Hana. "Are you saying I'm not alone?" "You're not alone," Hana confirmed. "You're human. We both are." Day stood and walked to a wall panel. He pulled out a small case containing his few possessions. "When do we leave?" Their second stop was a research station orbiting a dying star. A scientist named Sora worked there, studying solar phenomena. According to station records, she had made several discoveries that other scientists called impossible. They found Sora in her laboratory, surrounded by equations floating in holographic displays. She was small and thin, her hair pulled back in a practical style. When she saw them, she didn't seem surprised. "I've been having dreams," she said before anyone could speak. "Dreams of laboratories I've never visited. Experiments I've never conducted. But when I wake up and try those experiments, they work." She touched one of the floating equations. "I've been going insane trying to understand how I know things I shouldn't know." Hana explained everything. Sora listened carefully, asking detailed questions. When the explanation was done, she nodded slowly. "Genetic memory," she said. "Knowledge passed down through DNA, it makes sense. I've been accessing information stored in my own genes." She began packing her equipment immediately. "I'm coming with you. This is the greatest scientific discovery in history, and I want to be part of it." The next human they found was a deep space pilot named Wu. He worked alone, running supplies to remote outposts. His reflexes were so fast that other pilots refused to race against him. Wu took the news calmly. "Always figured there was something weird about me," he said, shrugging. "Might as well find out what." The fourth was Hyun, a young medic on a hospital ship. She could sense injuries in patients before running diagnostics, knowing instinctively what was wrong. The doctor she worked with thought she was gifted. The truth was stranger. With each person they found, Hana noticed something remarkable. When they accepted their heritage and touched one of the human artifacts, their abilities fully activated. Dee's already impressive strength doubled. Sora could interface with technology just by touching it, understanding complex systems instantly. Wu's reflexes became so sharp he could track individual raindrops in a storm. Hyun could sense the health of anyone near her, knowing exactly what they needed to survive. But their success didn't go unnoticed. Vorn had been hunting them across the galaxy. His fleet grew larger each day as more species joined his cause, either through fear or greed. He branded them terrorists, claiming they wanted to destabilize galactic civilization. The confrontation came at a mining colony called Outpost Viridian. They had stopped to refuel when Vorn's fleet appeared at the edge of the system. 50 warships all converging on their location. "We can't fight that many," Minji said from the pilot's seat. "We don't have to," Hana replied. She was studying the colony's geological data. "There's something below this colony, a power signature similar to the vault on Terra." "Another human installation?" Tay asked. "Maybe, and if it is, I might be able to activate it." Quan made the decision. "We go down. If there's a chance, we take it." They landed at the colony and ran for the mining tunnels. Behind them, Vorn's ships entered orbit and began landing troops. Hundreds of armed soldiers poured into the colony. Deep underground, Hana found what she was looking for. A door made of the same crystal as the Terra Vault, covered in symbols that glowed when she approached. "This is it," she said. "This is a defense installation. Can you open it?" Sora asked urgently. Above them, they could hear explosions as the battle reached the colony. Hana placed both hands on the door. The symbols blazed with light. She felt the installation systems connect with her mind, showing her its purpose and capabilities. It was a guardian, built to protect humanity from threats. "I can do more than open it," Hana said. "I can activate it." The door slid open, revealing a chamber filled with ancient technology. Hana walked to the central console and touched it. The entire installation came to life. Deep beneath the colony, weapon systems activated. Automated defense platforms rose from hidden silos. Energy shields sprang up around the settlement. Vorn's ship suddenly found themselves under attack from technology that shouldn't exist. The ancient weapons tore through modern shields like paper. Ships exploded in orbit. Soldiers on the ground were forced to retreat as automated drones emerged from the tunnels. In his command ship, Vorn stared in horror at the destruction of his fleet. "Retreat!" he ordered. "All ships retreat now." The survivors of his armada fled the system, leaving behind wreckage and the smoking remains of their invasion force. Inside the installation, Hana collapsed. The others caught her before she hit the ground. She was exhausted but alive. "Did it work?" she asked weakly. "It worked," Quan said, smiling. "You saved us all." But the victory came with consequences. The activation of the Viridian installation had sent a signal across the galaxy. A signal that reached other dormant human installations. All across known space, ancient defensive systems began to wake up. Power surges registered on sensors from 1,000 different worlds. The galaxy's scientists scrambled to understand what was happening. And Vorn, regrouping his forces in a distant system, made a broadcast that every ship in the galaxy received. His scaled face filled communication screens everywhere. "People of the Galactic Unity Council," he said, his voice cold with fury. "The human threat has returned. They possess weapons that can destroy us all. We must act now before they grow stronger. I hereby issue an ultimatum to the human fugitives. Surrender within 72 hours, or we will do what we should have finished 100,000 years ago. We will sterilize every world that harbors human DNA. You have been warned." The broadcast ended. Silence filled the Legacy's bridge. "What do we do?" Minji asked quietly. Hana looked at the faces around her. Tay, her loyal brother. Minji, her best friend. Quan, the captain who had risked everything for them. And the awakened humans, Day, Sora, Wu, Hyun, who had joined their cause. "We have 72 hours, Hana said. "We use them wisely. We show the galaxy who humans really are." "How?" Tay asked. Hana smiled, an idea forming. "By telling the truth. All of it." The Galactic Communications Hub stood at the center of Archon Prime like a tower of glass and light. It controlled every broadcast channel in known space. News, entertainment, emergency alerts all passed through its systems. It was also the most heavily guarded building in the galaxy. "This is suicide," Tay said, looking at the holographic blueprint Sora had created. "There are security checkpoints every 50 meters. Armed guards. Automated defenses. We'll never make it inside." "We don't need to make it inside," Sora replied, adjusting the projection. "We just need to get close enough for me to access their systems remotely." "And I can get us close," Wu added. He was planning their approach route, his fingers dancing across the navigation console. "There's a maintenance tunnel that runs beneath the building. It's not on the official maps, but I found it in old construction records." Hana looked at the assembled group. In the past weeks, they had grown from a small salvage crew to something more. A team. Maybe even the beginning of something greater. "Everyone knows the risks," she said. "If we fail, Vorn will have his excuse to destroy every world where humans might be hiding. But if we succeed, if we show the galaxy the truth, we might have a chance." "The truth isn't always enough," Day said quietly. He was cleaning a weapon they'd recovered from the Viridian installation. "People believe what they want to believe. Then we make them want to believe," Hana replied. "We show them not just what happened to humanity, but what humanity was. Our art, our music, our dreams, everything that made us worth remembering." Quan nodded approval. "When do we go?" "Tonight. We have less than 24 hours before Vorn's deadline expires." They approached Archon Prime under cover of darkness, the Legacy hidden among regular traffic. Ray had modified their ship's identification codes, making them appear as a simple cargo vessel. They landed at a public port far from the communications hub. The maintenance tunnel was exactly where Wu said it would be, hidden behind a waste processing station. They descended into darkness, following ancient pipes and cables that snaked through the underground. Hyun led the way, her enhanced senses detecting security systems before they triggered. Twice they had to stop while she disabled alarms. Each time her hands moved with confidence she hadn't possessed before awakening her abilities. After 2 hours of careful progress, they reached a junction directly beneath the communications hub. Sora set up her equipment, connecting to the building's network through a maintenance port. "I'm in," she whispered, "but they'll detect the intrusion within minutes." "I need time." "You'll have it," Day said. He and Wu moved to block the tunnel entrance, ready to defend their position. Sora's fingers moved across holographic keyboards, her eyes unfocused as she interfaced directly with the hub systems. Her awakened abilities let her understand the network's architecture instantly, finding paths through security that would take normal hackers days to discover. "Got it," she said finally. "I have control of the main broadcast system." "Hana, you're on." Hana took a deep breath. She held the data crystal from Terra in one hand and a recording device in the other. This was it. Everything they had suffered, everyone they had lost, came down to this moment. She activated the broadcast. "People of the galaxy," she began, her voice steady. "My name is Hana. I am human. And for the next 3 hours I'm going to tell you a story about a species that once lived among you. A species that was erased from history because they were feared." She uploaded the data from the crystal. Images filled every screen across the galaxy. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds stopped what they were doing and watched. They saw humanity's first cities rising from Terra's plains. They saw humans reaching for the stars with primitive rockets. They saw the joy of first contact with alien species, the hope in human faces as they joined the galactic community. "We were explorers," Hana narrated. "We were scientists, artists, dreamers. We built wonders not to dominate but to understand. We reached out not to conquer, but to connect." The images shifted, showing the darker chapters, the secret meetings where humanity's fate was decided, the release of the biological weapon, the death of billions. 100,000 years ago, 12 species decided we were too dangerous to exist. They didn't declare war. They didn't give us a chance to defend ourselves. They simply erased us. She showed the evidence. Communication logs between the conspirators, scientific reports on the weapon's effectiveness, battle records of human ships destroyed while trying to escape, video of the final days with humans dying not in battle but in hospitals, confused about why their bodies were failing. They killed 99.9% of us. Then they hunted the survivors. They destroyed every record of our existence. They told the galaxy that Terra never developed intelligent life, that we never existed. The broadcast showed the current council members. Many of them had ancestors who participated in the genocide. Some of them were from species that knowingly benefited from erasing humanity's achievements and claiming them as their own. But some of us survived, Hana continued, hidden in deep sleep waiting for a better time. And now we've awakened, not to take revenge, not to reclaim what was stolen, but to exist, to be acknowledged, to be remembered. She showed human art next, paintings that moved the soul, music that made even alien hearts ache, poetry that spoke of love and loss and hope, scientific discoveries that advanced understanding, philosophy that questioned existence. "This is what you tried to destroy," Hana said softly. "Not weapons, not threats, but this. Beauty, curiosity, hope." The final part of the broadcast was personal testimonies. Day spoke about growing up thinking he was a freak. Sora described the loneliness of knowing things she shouldn't know. Hyun talked about feeling broken because she could sense others' pain. Wu explained how he'd been called dangerous for reflexes he couldn't control. "We were scattered across your worlds," Hana said, "hidden among you. Your neighbors, your co-workers, your friends. We didn't know what we were, but we felt incomplete, lost, and now we know why. Because part of our identity, our history, our very humanity was stolen from us." She paused, letting her next words carry weight. "The Galactic Unity Council has given us an ultimatum. Surrender or be destroyed. They say we're terrorists, threats, dangers to galactic peace. But I ask you to judge for yourselves. Are we the threat? Or are those who committed genocide and then lied about it for 100,000 years?" The broadcast continued for 3 full hours. By the end, Hana had shown the galaxy everything. The good and the bad. The achievements and the failures. The truth, unfiltered and complete. "We don't ask for special treatment," Hana concluded. "We don't demand reparations. We only ask for what every species deserves. The right to exist. The right to be acknowledged. The right to remember who we are." She ended the broadcast and collapsed, exhausted. Tay caught her. "It's done," Sora said, disconnecting her equipment. The message went out to every communication device in the galaxy. Billions of beings just learned the truth. Above them, they could hear shouting. Security forces had finally located them. "Time to go," Wu said. They ran through the tunnels, retracing their path. Behind them, guards poured into the underground. But they had a head start. They reached the surface and sprinted for the spaceport, where the Legacy waited with engines already hot. They barely made it. As the ship lifted off, security ships moved to intercept. But something unexpected happened. The security ships didn't fire. They held their position, weapons powered down. On the communication channels, voices called out, "Safe journey, Legacy. Thank you for the truth. We won't stop you." The ship broke atmosphere and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind them, Archon Prime erupted in chaos. The broadcast had changed everything. Across the galaxy, beings took to the streets in protest. Some demanded justice for humanity. Others called for the Council to be dissolved. Species that had supported Vorn suddenly withdrew their backing. On some worlds, there was anger. People who didn't want to believe, who rejected the evidence. But on many more, there was shame, sadness, a recognition that something terrible had been done and covered up. The Galactic Unity Council attempted an emergency session, but half the representatives didn't attend. The coalition was fracturing, and Vorn, watching from his flagship, knew he had lost control of the narrative. The galaxy had seen the truth. Now he could only try to contain it. He made one final broadcast, his voice filled with cold rage. "If we cannot erase the memory of humanity, we will erase their last children. The Thaxian fleet moves on the Sol system. We will destroy Terra completely. Every vault, every artifact, every trace. And then we will hunt down every human descendant until none remain." His ships began moving, a massive armada converging on the Forbidden Zone. In the Legacy, alarms blared. The ship's sensors detected the fleet movement. "They're going to Terra," Minji said, checking the tactical display. Hana stood at the viewport, watching the stars. Something called to her from that dead world, something that had been waiting for 100,000 years. "Set course for Terra," she ordered. "It's time to go home." Behind them, across the galaxy, other awakened humans felt the same pull. They began moving toward the Sol system, drawn by instinct and genetic memory.